Hello, BookTube. It's the last week of October, as I've been telling you endlessly today, and that means the last week of PrepTober. This is the last weekend before NaNoWriMo, the enormous event that takes place in November, National Novel Writing Month, where hundreds of thousands of people all over the world gather together in November to write the beginning of a novel. The beginning, the middle, and the end of a novel if you're going for something short. 50,000 words. 1,667 words a day. All through the month of November. And there's a website, of course, for NaNoWriMo, and there are writing groups and write-ins and prep talks and sprints and everything imaginable. There's merchandise, there are Twitter handles, a million Goodreads groups, tons and tons of videos here on BookTube and on AuthorTube, because this is an event that is just incredible. Those of you who've done it will know what I'm talking about. But those of you who haven't done it before and are maybe thinking about it, it's an amazing experience to know that all of these people all over the world are taking time out from, November is a busy month. Every month is a busy month. In some parts of the Western world, November is an especially busy month, with school wrapping up for its semester, with Thanksgiving and the winter holidays approaching and whatnot. And yet these people do this. They take this time out to get serious about this, to get serious about writing the beginning of a novel. At the end of NaNoWriMo, if you do it, if you stick to it, if you win, you will have 50,000 words, which is a very good start on a conventional length novel, or more or less a complete first draft of a shorter novel. And the key to NaNoWriMo, there are two. The main one is, during the month of November, is write but don't edit. Just keep going. Just get the words on paper. Do that, because that is something that a lot of people don't do. They dream about it. They talk about it. They say, when I have the time, when my schedule permits, and then they don't ever do it. The key to NaNoWriMo is to band together with hundreds of thousands of other people and just write. Don't edit. Just write. That's the key once you're in the month. The key before the month, we have a few days left, we have less than a week left. The key before that month, of course, in order to facilitate just writing, is to plot, is to plan your book. Think about what you want to write, and then hatch out a rough outline, or if you're of the mind frame, an extremely detailed outline of what you're going to write in what order. And that is one half of the constituent of NaNoWriMo. There are two groups in NaNoWriMo, plotters and pantsers. Pantsers stands for seat of the pants, and that is the group of people in NaNoWriMo who don't plot. They get to their first day, they're still going to do their 1,700 words, but they don't have a plot, they don't have an outline. They might have a general idea or gist of what they want to do, but they're mostly just going to fly by the seat of their pants and generate the words. And pantsers have a vocal enthusiasm to their group. I myself, of course, am a plotter, not a pantser. I don't think you can generate anything worthwhile by pantsing. And I don't see the point of an exercise like this if you're not going to generate something worthwhile. I understand there is a value to pantsing because it gets you used to pouring out words without consciously looking over your own shoulder. It gets you accustomed to the trick of shutting off your inner editor, which is tough to do, and it's a trick well worth mastering. And with pantsing, you can do that. In fact, pantsing might facilitate that, because since you don't have an outline, you don't have any sense of whether you're doing something right or wrong, of whether you've lost your way. But if you pants, there's almost no chance that at the end of the month, even if you finish, even if you win at 50,000 words, there's virtually no chance you'll have anything that you'll keep. And it seems to me that if you're going to take the time out to write 1,700 words a day all month long when you've got tons of other things to do, you ought to be building towards something that you will keep. So I advocate plotting. And you still have time. That's the point of this video. This is, I think, my only PrepTober video. That's the point of this video, is to assure you that you still have time. All you need to do is set aside an hour, a couple of times for a couple of days, a couple of hours, and you will have enough to launch you into NaNoWriMo, even your first NaNoWriMo. What you need to do is sit down, preferably with a pad of paper. I've found that this doesn't work online. It's one of the only things that doesn't. I'm a big fan of writing on your laptop, of course, but when it comes to plotting, when it comes to planning what you're going to write, I've always found it's better to have no distractions whatsoever, just a pad of paper and a pen. There is still time for you to do that. So you start with the most elementary question of all. What kind of story do you want to write? And the most elementary answer to that story, to that question, is one that if you've watched any writing videos, you might have heard it. I want to stress it because, boy, oh boy, is it true. The kind of story that you want to write is the kind of story that you want to read. If you pitch it for any other reason, if you think what's popular, what's current, what's trendy, you will stop. You will fail. And even if you don't, even if by some miracle, even pitching it that way, you get to 50,000 words, you won't enjoy it. You won't enjoy the process, and that's the whole point of NaNoWriMo. So the old dictum, write the kind of book you want to read, is entirely true. Maybe not in detail. You don't want to close a loop and just be totally self-contained. You want to learn. You want to grow. You want to push yourself as a writer. But if you don't write the kind of thing that you like to read, you're taking away a fundamental prop that you will need. So when you pull back for this hour or 2 hours sessions between now and next Thursday, when you pull back with your pad of paper and your pen, the first question you want to ask is, what kind of story do I want to write? What kind of story would I like to read? What kind of story am I going to tell for NaNoWriMo? You have to answer that question first of all, and then start hatching out the details. Who's involved? Who are your major characters? What are the major themes, the major scenes of action? What are the major things that are going to happen? Just in general terms. It can be frustrating at first, especially if you've never done it before. It can be frustrating. It can feel like, I really don't know. I really have no idea. If you get to that point and really do feel that way, NaNoWriMo has plenty of tools at your disposal, plot doctors and plot rabbits that will help you to generate scaffolding on which you can tell your story. There's nothing wrong with that. And now you have the time to do that, because you can't do any of that once NaNoWriMo starts. You're not allowed by NaNoWriMo rules to start writing before the stroke of midnight on Thursday. But you can plot and plan all you want between now and then, even down to specific scenes per day that you're going to write. You can make the writing in November easy, as easy as it's going to get. But once you're in the thick of NaNoWriMo, once those word counts are there every day waiting for you, you're going to encounter rough sailing as well as smooth sailing. There's no way around that. There's no such thing as a painless NaNoWriMo. That's part of the fun, believe it or not. And you can't be plotting then. You can be making spackles and quick fixes and whatnot during those writing days. But if you get 10 days in and you think, no, I can't do this at all, I need to start over, you'll never make it. You'll never reach 50,000 words. It just won't happen. It takes a certain amount of time every day to do this. Budgeting time is another good idea, but I'll be making other NaNoWriMo videos, so we can talk about all of that in the future. The key for this video is to assure you that you still have time to do this, and that you should. There's no feeling like it. None. None at all. It's amazing. And if you're a bookish person, you are almost certainly someone who has toyed with this idea. Now's the time to do it. And I will be doing it myself. I have 3 writing projects going right now. 2 that are ongoing and 1 that I will start for NaNoWriMo. 1 that I will do for NaNoWriMo. And I am somehow going to make the time for all of those. And one of those 2 that I have working now is in abeyance, shamefully. It's been lagging. And believe it or not, as I have discovered in past years, I've been doing NaNoWriMo for years now. As I've discovered in past years, once you impose upon yourself in November the structure of that 1,700 words, all of a sudden structure becomes easier just in general. And all sorts of writing things start to happen that have been in abeyance, at least for me. And that's a wonderful feeling. I feel certain that will happen in November. I have 2 writing projects that are going on now, but I am going to write something new for NaNoWriMo. I will set up my page. I will set up my description. I will enter my word counts as I do them every day. And I wanted to tell you a little about that. You may remember from the Hot and Sticky Summer Novel Writing Challenge 2018, this summer, hosted by the guys at Strip Cover Lit. They have a writing sprint of their own. It's longer than NaNoWriMo, so the daily word count is far less onerous. And for that writing challenge, for the Hot and Sticky Summer Novel Writing Challenge, in the theme of summer, I decided to write a story about gay love. The very first time I've ever explicitly done that as the hinge of a story. A story called Giancarlo in Love and Lust, which is about a teenage boy working at his father's shop in Venice who knows that every summer there will be an influx, a huge tsunami of tourists flooding into Venice and flooding the shop, doing good business for his father and whatnot. Like most native Venetians, that influx of tourists has made Giancarlo bored and cynical. He doesn't think there's anything really to it. They're easy to mock. They're bread and butter for his economy, but they're easy to mock. And he encounters a tourist in a tour group, a young British boy, and sparks fly. First, of a merely carnal nature, and then they start to like each other. They actually start to like each other. They start to feel deeper emotions for each other. Hence the title, Giancarlo in Love and Lust. The lust comes first. But then something like love starts to blossom in the course of that story. But the story is circumscribed because the boy is going home. He's a tourist. He's not in Venice forever. That was the sort of containing arc of that story. There is a spark. There is a connection. And then Giancarlo in Love and Lust ends the day before the English boy is due to return with his tourist group, was due to leave Venice. And it leaves things unresolved. And my idea at the time, when I ended the story that way, wasn't to tease the reader. There are only a handful of readers for this thing anyway. It wasn't to tease the reader. Rather, it was that I kind of liked the unresolved nature of it. That we're not going to bring this to a nailed conclusion. Instead, it's going to be like human relations. It's going to be open-ended. And I thought nothing more of it. I had a great time doing it. I had some real challenges, which I shared with a couple of you. I had some real challenges because this was one of the only stories I've ever written, for instance, that dragged right into the focus of my writing activity. A bugaboo of mine that has been true for every piece of fiction that I've ever read, which is, what do you do with sex scenes? Actual sex scenes. Do they even belong in fiction? I myself was railing against them when I started this story because, as I said to the poor people who were dragooned into listening to me, I've almost never read a sex scene anywhere in a novel that did anything for the novel. They seem like the very worst kind of indulgences on the author's part, or worse, on a mercenary editor's part who tells an author, I think this needs it. But I've never seen them do any good. Almost never. Almost never have I seen them deepen a character, advance a plot, change a mood, nothing. They always seem so extraneous to me, and yet, when I was writing this story, I was thinking, well, you're writing a story about two teenage boys falling in love with each other. You can't rightly leave that out. So not only was I faced with the dilemma of wondering what on earth to do with a sex scene, even one, in this story, but I was also faced, not to put too fine a point on it, with the mechanics of how to write such a scene. Once I decided that I needed at least one, I had to figure out how to do it. That wasn't easy, but it was tons of fun. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about the joy of NaNoWriMo, is that you discover these things, and it's all you. It's all you. In private, you and your laptop, you and your pad of paper, the thrill of that encounter with nothing else, just you, your God, facing the intricate problems of creating things. And I tell you, even if you don't so-called win NaNoWriMo, even if you don't get to 50,000 words, that feeling, setting aside an hour a day for that feeling, is positively narcotic. You won't go back. Once you feel that, you'll want to keep feeling it. And the amazing thing is that you can. You can keep doing it. But when I finished that story, and I thought nothing more of it, and then, a month ago I was casting around for ideas for NaNoWriMo. And I suddenly realized, well, if writing a gay love story for the first time was something you did just this summer, and including in that grappling with the whole idea of sex scenes was something that you did for the first time, then why don't you do something else for the first time for NaNoWriMo? Why don't you write a continuation? Why don't you finish the story or continue it anyway? So that's what I'm going to do for NaNoWriMo. I'm going to continue the story of Giancarlo in Love and Lust. I'm going to tell the next part of that story, where the English boy, whose name, as I mentioned the last time I mentioned Giancarlo in Love and Lust, it's not just an English tourist. It turns out that he's also a member of the aristocracy. In the present day, in the 21st century, but the aristocracy of the landed aristocracy does, of course, survive. There are tiny handfuls here and there, and he is one of them. He's the son of an earl. It's his father is a wealthy man, a very wealthy man. And so it's not a token. His title, his inheritance, his world is real. It's not, a formality that's handed out as an honor for a businessman. Instead, it's an old title. His father is the Earl of Thanet, and he himself has the courtesy title of Lord Steyning. But his name is Tufton. The boy's name is Tufton. And it's Tufton, the boy. It's Tufton, the person that Giancarlo comes to know and love. And it's Giancarlo that Tufton comes to know and love, instead of rough trade or some sort of picturesque adventure or anything like that. All the horrible 19th century vogue of Venetian fiction where a pampered lily-white character falls in love with a rough gondolier and events ensue. In neither case is it that. They meet as people. They come to know each other as people. And I'm continuing that story for NaNoWriMo, where just as Tufton spent a short amount of time in Giancarlo's world, now the focus shifts, and Giancarlo is going to spend a short amount of time in Tufton's world, back in England. He can't be spared forever. His father needs him. But he can be spared for a short amount of time, and that's this story, where awkwardly, because of course when you're on vacation, exotic things are supposed to happen to you, but you're not supposed to bring them home. And Tufton is from a different world, not the stereotypical, Downton Abbey world where people are going to object because this boy is Italian or because of anything like that, but an awkward thing anyway, because it's not anything like what Giancarlo knows, and it's the only thing that Tufton has ever known. So there's a great deal of awkwardness involved, and neither Tufton nor Giancarlo are sure of how much they can shield themselves from that awkwardness. And that is this story. The story will go to the family seat on the English coast. It will go to the ornate and very nice London house. And one of the properties that the Earl has is actually Steyning Castle. It's an ancient castle. It's where Tufton's courtesy title comes from. So that he is Lord Steyning, and that is the title of this book. It's called Steyning That Winter. And it's the story, it continues the story of Giancarlo in Love and Lust. So I will not only have all of the same challenges that I had for that story, but I'll have them more intensified, because NaNoWriMo is a far more intense experience than the hot and sticky summer novel writing challenge. And I will also have to figure out how to continue a story. In other words, like I've said on this channel when I talk about multiple books in series, it entirely falls on me to make sure that the reader knows what I'm talking about, without ever having heard of Giancarlo in Love and Lust, much less read it. I need to make this a complete story on its own. And that's going to be a challenge. That's going to be a challenge itself. Because I lived with the first story for months. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it now that I know what the project is. So that will be 3 writing projects that I will be doing in November. And I can't wait. I'm happy to do all 3 of them. I wanted to make this video, a sort of PrepTober video, to urge you to join me in writing for NaNoWriMo. You still have time. You still have almost a week to pull out a pad of paper and a pen, sit down with yourself, and decide what you want to write. Then block it out. Who are the people in this story? What is the arc? What are the actual events that will fill the story that you are actually going to tell? Don't get lost in the weeds of backstory. That kills time. Sketch a backstory, but then come up with the actual arc of the story that you want to tell, and get ready. Block it out, page by page, week by week, day by day, scene by scene, so that you're ready when Thursday comes to hit the ground running. And I'll be back. This is not the only writing video that I will make, because I love doing them. I love watching them, and I love doing them. So I wanted to make some general comments about about PrepTober. So you have so little time left. I might make another PrepTober video before NaNoWriMo starts with some nuts and bolts advice, not anything very different from stuff that you have a wealth of videos that you can watch online. And the Nano site itself has tons and tons of great resources. The key thing here is that you should try it. You're not alone. Thousands and thousands of people are doing this too. And that's a great feeling. Even if you never see any of those stories or meet any of those people, the idea that you're not working alone in this month is a help. It's a lot of fun. And of course, you're all welcome to be my writing buddies. I will have all the stuff for staining that winter up on my NaNoWriMo site. I'll try and do it today, because that should be there along with all the last few books that I've written. You're all welcome to be my writing buddies. To sign up, just send me a message, and we'll make a great group of people. But one way or another, we'll talk again. I just wanted to encourage you. We still have time. NaNoWriMo is almost upon us, and it's one of the funnest events you'll ever do. So think about it. But I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.